Right now, somewhere, someone is lying awake replaying a comment a coworker made 6 years ago. Not a compliment, not a promotion, not the 100 nice things said since. One sharp sentence still on repeat, word for word. Meanwhile, the praise from that same week is gone, vanished. You couldn't recall it if you tried. You probably assume this is just you being insecure or overly sensitive or bad at letting things go. That assumption feels reasonable. It is also almost completely wrong. What's actually happening has a name, negativity bias, and it's not a personality flaw. It's a feature built into your brain by millions of years of evolution, and it once kept your ancestors alive. Here's the logic. Imagine two early humans walking through tall grass. One notices a beautiful flower and thinks about it for a moment, then moves on. The other hears a rustle that might be a predator, and that thought doesn't fade. It sharpens, it repeats. It keeps them alert for the next 10 minutes. Which one is more likely to survive to have children? The one who couldn't stop thinking about the possible threat. Missing a flower costs you nothing. Missing a predator costs you everything. So evolution didn't build a brain that weighs good and bad equally. It built a brain that overweights the bad, because for nearly all of human history, bad meant dangerous, and dangerous meant dead. Psychologist Roy Baumeister and colleagues reviewed decades of research and landed on a phrase that stuck. Bad is stronger than good. Across memory, emotion, relationships, and decision-making, negative events consistently affect us more than positive ones of the same size. This shows up in strange, specific ways. Losing $100 hurts more than finding $100 feels good. That's called loss aversion, described by psychologist Daniel Kahneman. And it means your brain treats identical amounts of gain and loss completely differently. One piece of criticism in a performance review can erase 5 pieces of praise from memory. Not because the praise wasn't said, because your brain simply didn't file it the same way. A single argument with a partner can outweigh weeks of good moments, at least emotionally, in the moment, even if you know rationally that the good moments were more numerous. None of this means you're broken. It means your brain is running software optimized for a world that mostly no longer exists. Think about what your ancestors' daily threat list actually looked like. Predators, rival groups, poisonous plants, social exclusion, which in a small tribe could mean literal death, since survival depended on group cooperation. A brain that flagged and remembered every one of those threats intensely was a brain that kept passing on its genes. A brain that shrugged off danger the way it shrugged off a missed sunset did not. So here's the strange part. You inherited that exact brain, the one tuned for saber-toothed cats and tribal exile. But you're using it to survive Slack messages and group chats. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a genuine threat to your survival and a slightly cold text message from a friend. Both get flagged by the same ancient alarm system. Both get remembered with the same disproportionate weight. This is why one nasty comment on something you made can outweigh 50 kind ones. This is why you can give an entire presentation well and walk away only remembering the one moment you stumbled over a word. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's just doing it in the wrong environment, for a threat that no longer requires that level of alarm. Here's where it gets more useful, not just interesting. Psychologist Barbara Fredrickson developed what's known as the broaden and build theory, describing how positive emotions work completely differently from negative ones. They don't shout for attention. They quietly build resources over time, creativity, relationships, resilience. Negative emotions are loud and immediate. Positive emotions are subtle and cumulative, which means if you're only paying attention to what shouts, you're missing almost everything good that's actually happening. Researchers studying long-term relationships have found something called the 5-to-1 ratio, popularized by psychologist John Gottman. Stable, happy relationships tend to have roughly 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction, not because negativity needs to disappear entirely, but because it takes that much positive weight just to balance out one instance of the brain's negativity bias. That number isn't arbitrary. It's your brain's own math, reverse engineered. So what do you actually do with this? You can't switch off millions of years of evolution, but you can work with it instead of being blindsided by it. Start noticing when a single negative comment is taking up disproportionate space in your head relative to how much positive feedback surrounds it. That imbalance is not evidence that the negative comment is more true. It's evidence that your ancient alarm system is doing its job a little too well. Some psychologists recommend deliberately pausing on good moments for a few extra seconds, actually letting them register, rather than letting attention slide straight past them toward whatever might be wrong. It sounds small, it's not. It's actively working against a bias millions of years in the making. Consider the last time someone gave you a compliment and you deflected it in half a second, but held onto a criticism for a week. That wasn't a coincidence. That was your ancestors' predator detection system misfiring in a conference room. Understanding that doesn't erase the sting, but it does something almost as useful. It gives you permission to stop treating that sting as the truth. The sharp comment that's been replaying in your head for years wasn't more true than the kindness around it. It was just louder. To a brain built by a world that rewarded loud, you get to decide. Now that you know that whether to keep listening to it at the same volume